A new theory has been floating around on Reddit that I have not yet seen on YouTube, and I wanted to share it here. It may explain some of the disappointment from episode 5 of Game of Thrones in 2019. And it basically goes like this. Dany is locked on Cersei during the Battle of King's Landing. It looks for all the world like she is about to burn the Red Keep. Instead, she burns the whole city. She takes her vengeance out on the people we all think that she loves, the citizens, the poor people. And we notice that after that snap, we do not see Dany's face again. We barely even see her riding on the back of Drogon as he's torching everything. This Reddit theory holds that the reason for this is that Bran warged into Drogon, and Daenerys was riding on his back helpless as Bran torched the city. Now, you might at first think this is just a Daenerys fanboy theory because they can't accept the fact that she's become the Mad Queen. And I hear you on that, but there's some real evidence for this, and there's a real possibility that it could redeem this whole season that so many people have criticized. There's even a petition out right now of fans trying to get David and David to redo the whole series, and I think it's got like 5,000 signatures. I think these people are jumping the gun. There's going to be another reveal in this next episode, and they don't know what it is yet. It is possible for all this to make sense in the last episode if David and David do it right, and this is one of the ways that it could be done right. First of all, I want to talk about Brans Vision. He had a vision several seasons back, and it was a recurring vision. I believe it appeared several different times, but he has a vision of the shadow of a dragon over King's Landing, and people have talked about this before. It's almost as if it's from his perspective, as if he is seeing that shadow through the eyes of the dragon. Well, right before Dany starts torching King's Landing, we see that same exact scene again, the scene from his vision. So what does that mean? It could mean just that Bran predicted that Daenerys was going to burn the place, but it could also mean that Bran is seeing himself warg into Drogon. Now, the fact that Daenerys is becoming the Mad Queen has been in my mind since at least the beginning of last season. There's all the signs for it. She's showing evidence of becoming a tyrant. Maybe not showing so many scenes of becoming crazy, but she is now showing signs of depression, major signs of depression, and it's understandable because even the man she loves is rejecting her. The only person that she has on her side right now who seems to sympathize with her and her emotions and her goals is Grey Worm, and Grey Worm has become he's reverted back to this bloodthirsty warrior because of the death of Missandei. So that's not a good best friend to have if you're trying to do the right thing. It's absolutely obvious that it's been foreshadowed that Daenerys is going to become the Mad King. It's perfectly obvious that they've laid the seeds for her having the personality of a tyrant. But insanity? Have we really seen foreshadowing of insanity? I mean, Mad Queen, you got mad means insanity, yes, but we don't see her having the same lack of logic as the original Mad King. I mean, this guy was off the rocker, and he did a lot of very strange things that had no logical accounting for before he finally went over the edge. The reason people say that Daenerys burning King's Landing is out of character, even if she did go crazy, is because when people go crazy, do they all become mass murderers? Even the ones who are spent a whole life protecting poor people, and then they're going to take all their vengeance out on poor people? I mean, I thought she was mad at Cersei, not poor people. If she's going to go insane, isn't it just as likely that she would, I don't know, go fly off into the wild blue yonder, or jump off the dragon and commit suicide, or play with her own feces. I mean, there's no rationality behind her torturing these paupers. Like I said in my last video, if the paupers had cheered when Missandei got her head chopped off, or done something to enrage her, if she wasn't looking right at Cersei when she did it, it might make sense. But it doesn't make sense. Literature generally has more foreshadowing than real life. And if you think about all the mass shooters that we have, does their backstory say that they just got angry at their political rival and then went and murdered a bunch of people at the arcade? No. Mass murderers have many signs, usually, to show that this idea of killing a lot of people has been growing in their mind. Many of them even write manifestos. But Dany has never expressed desire to kill a bunch of people, a bunch of poor people. And the idea that she wants to rule via fear is not enough. She could create fear a lot other ways than burning poor people. And like many, I was quick to judge Hollywood for this. Oh, David and David just rushed everything, and they didn't have enough character arc. They should have done another season. Well, if Dany really is the one who burned King's Landing, I still stand by that. But if Bran warged into Drogon, David and David might be doing a very good rendition of George's masterpiece, because it would all make sense to a certain degree when it's revealed in episode 6. Addressing the idea that this is just a Daenerys fanboy argument, this is what I have to say about that. This could really work in season 6 if Dany is assassinated before we found out that Bran did it. Dany is a tyrant. We've seen the foreshadowing of her being a tyrant. Does that necessarily mean that she's evil? That she's as wicked as the Night King all of a sudden? In order for that wheel to really be broken, Daenerys needs to be deposed, impeached, killed, whatever. I get that. I understand it, and I agree with it. But if Bran took control of Drogon, this provides an incredible twist for the climax of the season. Just think about it. I think it's Arya that's going to assassinate Dany, like I said in my last video. And it'll be a bittersweet moment, even though we know that Dany has done wrong. We understand that she has to go. It'll be a really sad scene, but we'll be okay with it until a scene later or two, we find out that Bran warged into Drogon. And maybe she didn't deserve to die. Maybe she just deserved not to be queen. Now, according to one article I read on this, David and David have already said the reason for Dany not being shown, her face not being shown after the Drogon attack, was because they wanted to concentrate on the reaction, the people who are on the receiving end, rather than concentrating on the big heroic figure or the big villain figure like so many other TV shows and movies do. But you know, they're not going to give away their twist. That may have just been an excuse. However, this theory does have its problems, because now we have to go back and see if all this makes sense with the lore of the Three-Eyed Raven and Bran and the Night King. Why would Bran do this? What would his motive be? Now, the Redditor who pointed this out shows that Bran was touched by the Night King in one of his vision foragings. And the former Three-Eyed Raven says he touched you. And this is true. And the supposition is that because when the Night King touches a baby, it turns to a White Walker. When the Night King touches a dragon, it turns into a zombie dragon, that he must have put Bran under his control when he touched him. I don't think so. The Night King also touched Arya. I think, in my understanding of magic and how it works in Westeros, you have to have intent to do these things. I don't think the Night King is like King Midas when he accidentally pets a dog and it turns into a zombie. I think that he's concentrating when he touches the baby. He's concentrating when he touches Drogon, and he's casting a magic spell, basically, using a power. And I think he has to think about it. It's not just if he accidentally brushes up against somebody, they're going to turn undead. And also, Bran is very powerful. He's stronger consciously than an infant or a dead dragon, so he would probably be able to fight the Night King's resistance. Plus, the Night King's dead. So if Bran was under his control, he's not anymore because the Night King's dead. Now, there's some theory going on this Reddit message that maybe Bran became the Night King after the Night King's death. Well, they haven't gotten to this in the series yet, but I am still very convinced that the Night King's name is Bran, that all Brans in the Stark lineage have been reincarnations of other Brans. That's why old Nan gets them mixed up, and I've done an in-depth video on this several seasons back that you can find on my channel. The Night King seems to be one of the incarnations of Bran that went wrong. Brynden Rivers, the former Three-Eyed Raven, is almost assuredly someone with Stark blood. He was a bastard, but his mother's house has a record of mating with Starks. They live in the Riverlands, just on the border with the Northern Lands, and there are many, many marriages throughout their history between them and the Starks that you can find in A World of Ice and Fire. Also, there's many Bryndens and Brandons in their lineage. The only other house in Westeros that has Bryndens and Brandons is Stark, and there's never two existing at one time. Now, since Bloodraven became the Night's King, all Brandon Starks have died early before they had a chance to do anything. Even Ned's older brother was very rash, and as soon as there was a chance for war, he went to it and got killed. Was this the Night's King's influence trying to stop another Three-Eyed Raven from taking the old Three-Eyed Raven's place? Because he is the antithesis of the Three-Eyed Raven, the Three-Eyed Raven that went bad. In the books, it seems obvious that the Three-Eyed Raven led Bran to the tower where Cersei and Jaime were having sex in order to get him to be crippled. And maybe the reason he had to do this is because if Bran hadn't have been crippled, he would have died in Robb's War. The Three-Eyed Raven, Brynden Rivers, was running out of time, and he needed a replacement. Now, right before the Battle of Winterfell, Bran gives a reason for the Night King's attack on Westeros. He says that he wants an everlasting night, and he wants to destroy Bran because Bran's the memory of the world. I think that's too simple of an explanation. I think Bran is holding something back or lying altogether. If we don't find the real intentions and the real backstory of the Night King before the season ends, it would be a horrible fail by Hollywood. We're going to find out in the books. Mark my words. But if they don't tell us, it wouldn't actually surprise me, because there are so many movies I watch, especially renditions of popular books. And I watch the movie, and what I think is the most important part, the content, the context, the backstory, is just totally left out. They just leave out all these things. They'll pose questions, and then at the end of the story, they'll just leave out all the background. That's one of my main objections to many movies today in both science fiction and fantasy. They seem to think that backstory will turn off the average user. But we feel very gypped if you just leave stuff like this out. I mean, the antagonist needs to have a motive. The antagonist needs to have a backstory. We want to know every damn thing about him before this season ends. Now, if this is true, if Bran has an alternative motive, he warged into Drogon, we might actually find out. So those people who are doing the petition to get the last season refilmed, I think that they're barking up the wrong tree, because we don't have the verdict yet. David and David could still redeem themselves. I'm not holding out all my hopes on this. It could be that they're not going to tell us anything about the Night King, but it also might be that they're not going to fail at all, that they are going to tell us about the Night King, and this is the way they're going to do it. They didn't reveal it then because it would have spoiled the twist with Bran. So I really think this theory could work out. It could redeem the whole last season. I mean, the pacing is still a little off, but it would be very understandable and very satisfying for this to happen. Even though it would be tragic, it would be a great twist, a great grand finale, and it would make at least Daeny's character have a decent character arc rather than just inexplicably deciding that she doesn't like poor people anymore. But there is a problem. I've been trying to reconcile this with what we know of Bran, the Three-Eyed Raven, and the Night's King, and it's very hard to work out. If they can pull this off and explain this cohesively, they'll get my love, they'll get my praise. Some on the Reddit community seem to think that Bran and the Night King were somehow working together. And this doesn't jive with me very well. I don't think that it just seems too ridiculous, too Hollywood. Some of this stuff is in the books, and the Night King's been destroying all these wildlings and turning them undead. He's done a lot of evil things over the course of these books and these series, and many of them are in opposition to what Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven are doing. If touching Bran had turned him bad, then wouldn't the Night King have control of him? Wouldn't the Three-Eyed Raven then kill Bran or get rid of him? Would he continue to help him? If the children of the forest were really still on the Night King's side and just inducting Bran into this evil takeover, then why would Leaf sacrifice herself to protect Bran? Why would all the children of the forest lose their lives to protect Bran during the Hodor scene? It seems to me that Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven were really enemies with the Night King and the Whites. And it would be extremely hard to make sense of what has gone before if we turn around and said, oh wait, no, they were just friends, they were just working each other, they were doing this 4D chess game to try to confuse Westeros. I don't know. I mean, that would be very Hollywood, to say the least. There's another possibility of how it could work, though. What if the Night King is actually somewhat of a good guy? What if the Whites were actually somewhat good guys, and they were trying to save Westeros from Bran? Well, they killed a lot of people to do it. They did a lot of bad things in order to save Westeros from Bran. If that's the case, which isn't totally improbable, because we don't know what stakes we have here. What is Bran's endgame? What is he going to do? Maybe it's so bad that losing a couple of thousand lives was worth it to hero Night King. But this is really hard to reconcile still. In the books, the White Walkers are actually beautiful. They're like ice elves or something. And in some interviews, George Martin has alluded to the idea that maybe they aren't totally evil like Sauron or even like Saruman. They are just misunderstood. They're a different type of human. And this goes along with Martin's statements that nobody is really all evil. The kind of spiritual and symbolic things that he's into have a long time tradition of this idea of non-duality, that evil and good are just opposite ends of a sliding scale, and that everyone has good in them and everyone has evil, and what's hard to determine is how much evil or how much good someone has, because you're very biased by your perspective and what they show to you. If we just leave it as it is and don't say anything else about the Night King for this rest of this season, that's what we got. We got a Sauron. The Night King was a Sauron. And George Martin doesn't want Saurons. He's been saying that he doesn't want Saurons. There is no Dark Lord. Everyone has a reason and a motive for everything. So unless we get a reveal about the Night King in this next episode, then David and David have not been true to George Martin's plot, his themes, and the ending he told them about at that infamous dinner meeting so many years ago. I think a lot of this could be confirmed or denied if we find out the true origins of Catspaw. I think that is the crux point that all this kind of stems from. And it would be a good way if we reveal the origin of Catspaw and the assassin sent to kill Bran when he was in bed, injured. This might be the thing that reveals what's really going on here. We still don't know who sent the assassin to kill Bran. We still don't know why he needed a Valyrian steel blade to do this. I don't think it was Littlefinger. I don't think it was Joffrey. It may very well have been the Night's King himself. If you recall, Sam sees a picture of Catspaw in a book at the Citadel, and he skims right over it. But right before he skims right over it, he says that the early men didn't understand the significance of dragonglass. They just used it to decorate their weapons. Well, what if there's another reason for it? I think that Catspaw has a lot more power than just being a Valyrian dagger. And it has a much more in-depth history that's been hidden from us on purpose because of the final reveal. But I'm not going to lie to you, I don't have it worked out. I don't know exactly what Bran's motives would be if he was the one who warged into Drogon. It solves a lot of problems with Daeny's character arc. It provides an awesome twist, actually two twists, for the end show and the grand finale. It's redemption, in a way, for David and David for the terrible reviews they got for this last episode. Those reviews will change if it makes sense in episode 6. But it also creates a lot of problems with the whole competition between the Night King and Bran leading up to this moment and all the things we know about Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven. But George R. Martin has blown my mind before. He blew my mind with the meaning of the Hodor name. And I don't doubt that he can do it again. He may be saving his best twist for last. And there is a possibility with his skill level that he could make all this make sense and make it even look retrospectively like we should have known this all along if we had just paid attention to one thing or the other. But I regret to inform you that I don't have that all worked out. And I'd love to hear your comments if you have any insights about how this can be reconciled with Bran's story up to this point. I'd really love to hear them in the comment section. I'm really glad you guys stopped by and checked out my video. I can't wait till the final episode. Please subscribe and hit the alarm so you'll be notified when I do my next video. I have a lot of cool stuff to come for you guys, and we'll be doing new video on the esoteric meanings behind some of the symbolism in Game of Thrones in the next couple of weeks. So see you guys later. Have a great weekend, and hope you enjoy the grand finale of Game of Thrones.